In the ancient kingdom of Umude, the people eagerly awaited the coronation of their new king. Their chosen leader, Mr. Ezeji. Ezeji was a beloved figure, known for his wisdom and kindness. The entire village burst with excitement as the day approached, eager to see him crowned and to usher in a new era of prosperity. On the day of the coronation, the village square was adorned with flowers and banners. Music filled the air, and villagers gathered from near and far to witness the grand event. Ezeji, dressed in regal attire, stood before the crowd, his eyes shining with happiness and pride. The village elder, an old and wise man, held the ornate crown, ready to place it upon Ezeji's head. As he placed the crown, suddenly Ezeji's face contorted in pain. He staggered, gasped for breath, and collapsed to the ground. A collective gasp rose from the villagers as they rushed to his aid, but it was too late. Ezeji was dead. Fear and confusion spread like wildfire. What could have caused Ezeji's sudden death? With heavy hearts, the community decided to choose a new king from another noble family. Hoping to break the ominous chain of events, the Lambert family was chosen next. They were overjoyed, seeing Ezeji's sudden death as a stroke of fortune that elevated them to royalty. Mr. Timothy, a strong and noble man, was selected as the new king. Despite the previous tragedy, hope once again filled the hearts of the people as they prepared for another coronation. The day of Timothy's coronation arrived, and the atmosphere was tinged with both anticipation and trepidation. This ceremony proceeded much like the last one, with music, decorations, and a gathering of the community. As the village elder raised the crown to place on Timothy's head, an uneasy silence fell over the crowd. The crown was placed, and for a moment all seemed well. But then Timothy's face changed, his eyes wide with shock. He clutched his chest, gasped for air, and collapsed just as Ezeji did. The people watched in horror as their new king lay lifeless on the ground. Panic ensued. The people of Umude community were now certain that a curse was upon them, a curse that ended anyone who wore the crown. They feared for their future, unsure of how to proceed. The once joyous occasion of crowning a new king had turned into a dreaded event. Gathering in the village hall, the elders and wise ones of Umude kingdom deliberated. They realized that the crown itself might be cursed. Determined to uncover the truth, they sought the help of a seer who lived in the mountains. This seer, an enigmatic man with piercing eyes, listened to their story. He revealed that the crown was indeed cursed. As he revealed the history behind the curse, they listened intently, their faces a mix of fear and worry. The seer's voice was steady and clear, weaving the tale of a long-forgotten past. Let's hear the story. Many years ago, in the kingdom of Umude, there lived a poor farmer named Amadi. Amadi was a simple man, blessed with a caring wife and beautiful children. They lived in peace, love, and happiness. Their humble home filled with laughter and joy. The villagers could almost picture Amadi's life, a stark contrast to that of his younger brother Okoro. Amadi was a poor farmer who had a happy family, while his younger brother was wealthy, but his wealth brought him no peace. His home was filled with discord. There was no love and peace of mind in his home. His wife and children cold and distant, very unfriendly to him. Despite his riches, Okoro's heart was filled with envy and bitterness. He longed for the love and harmony that his brother enjoyed, consumed by jealousy. Okoro's heart grew darker. He could not bear to see Amadi's happiness. One day, the king of Umude joined his ancestors, leaving the throne vacant. In Umude, the kingship was rotational among the noble families, a tradition that continued to this day. It was now the turn of Amadi and Okoro's family to rule. Okoro, whose wealth had grown even more considerable over the years, was confident he would be chosen as the next king. He believed his riches and influence would sway the kingmakers in his favor. However, to his greatest surprise, the kingmakers chose Amadi, the humble farmer, as the next king. The decision struck Okoro like a thunderbolt. His face contorted with rage, his heart filled with bitterness, How could they choose Amadi over him? What did Amadi have that he didn't have? The joy in Amadi's household only fueled Okoro's resentment. He saw the love and happiness that Amadi shared with his family. It pained him that he was not the one with such a happy family. Unable to contain his fury, as Amadi celebrated with his family and friends, Okoro sat alone, plotting his revenge. He devised a plan to ensure that Amadi would never sit on the throne. He couldn't accept that Amadi had been chosen over him. Determined to seize the throne, he decided to approach the kingmakers with an offer they couldn't refuse. Under the cover of night, Okoro met with the kingmakers in a secluded grove. "Make me king," he implored, "and I will give you any amount of money you desire. I have the wealth to ensure that your families are comfortable for generations." The kingmakers exchanged uneasy glances before the eldest among them spoke. "Okoro, the gods have already chosen Amadi. The only way you can be king is if Amadi willingly rejects the throne." Frustration boiled within Okoro, but he quickly masked it with a calculative smile. "Very well," he said. "I propose we devise a plan to make Amadi reject the kingship himself." Intrigued and swayed by Okoro's promise of wealth, the kingmakers listened. They conspired in the shadows, crafting a devious plan to be executed on the day of the coronation. The morning of the coronation dawned bright and hopeful. The people of Umude, friends and well-wishers, gathered in the square, their hearts filled with joy and anticipation. Amadi, unaware of the plan against him, prepared for the ceremony with a mixture of happiness and humility. His family, his greatest supporters, stood by his side, their faces beaming with happiness. As the ceremony commenced, one of the kingmakers stepped forward, holding the crown. Okoro, watching from the sidelines, signaled to the kingmakers. They nodded discreetly and set their plan into motion. As the kingmaker was about to place the crown on Amadi's head, a sudden interruption came from the other kingmakers. One of them stepped forward and announced, "Amadi, before you can be crowned king of Umude, you and your wife must strip naked before the congregation. If you refuse, it will be taken as a rejection of the kingship, and the crown will be given to another." A murmur of disbelief spread through the crowd. Amadi, shocked and confused, protested, "From the history of this kingdom, no king has ever been asked to strip naked during his coronation. Why me?" The kingmakers replied, "You must strip naked with your wife or refuse the crown. The choice is yours." Okoro, standing nearby, could barely conceal his glee. He had convinced the kingmakers to add this humiliating condition, believing that his brother's pride would never allow him to comply. Amadi and his wife, Adanna, retreated to a private room to discuss the situation. The room was filled with a tense silence as they deliberated. "This is a deliberate attempt to disgrace us," Amadi said, frustration and sadness in his voice. Adanna, ever supportive and wise, held his hand and said, "My husband, our dignity is in our unity and the love we share. If we accept this challenge, we show the people our strength and commitment. The crown is not just for us, but for the future of Umude. We must not let Okoro's jealousy dictate our actions." After a long pause, Amadi sighed and nodded. "You are right. We cannot let fear and pride dictate our actions." They returned to the hall, their faces set with determination. Amadi addressed the kingmakers and the congregation. "We have decided to comply with your demand. We will strip naked before you all, not as a sign of shame, but as a treatment to our love and our commitment to this kingdom." A hush fell over the crowd. Okoro's smirk faded, replaced by a look of disbelief and anger. He had never expected his brother to agree to such a humiliating demand. With grace and dignity, Amadi and Adanna stripped their clothes and stood before the congregation. Their heads held high. The crowd, initially stunned, began to murmur. Many felt a surge of respect and admiration for Amadi and Adanna's courage and unity. The village elder, moved by their bravery, raised his voice. "Behold, the strength and honor of our new king and queen. Let their sacrifice be a treatment to their commitment to Umude kingdom. May their reign be just and prosperous. With that, the elder placed the crown on Amadi's head. A wave of cheers and applause erupted from the crowd, who had witnessed a powerful display of integrity and love. Immediately after the crown was placed on Amadi's head, he stood tall, still naked, and holding the crown. His eyes, burning with a mix of righteous indignation and resolve, scanned the crowd in a voice that resonated with authority and power. He declared, "From the history of this land, I have not heard or seen a king strip naked with his queen before the crown will be placed on his head during his coronation day. But the kingmakers of my time forced me to do it. With the power bestowed on me as the king of Umude Kingdom, I hereby declare this as the tradition of this land. Any king that will be crowned in this land must strip naked with his queen before the crown will be placed on his head. Only then will his reign be prosperous. But any king who is crowned without stripping naked with his queen shall be struck with sudden death immediately. I curse this land, and so shall it be." The crowd gasped in shock and fear at the king's proclamation. The weight of his words settled over them like a tangible force. The kingmakers who had thought to humiliate Amadi now regret what they did as they realized the consequences of their actions. The crowd, still processing the cause, looked at the king with a mix of fear and respect. They understood that his words would shape the future of Umude forever. Okoro, his plan to humiliate and dethrone his brother, had backfired. Instead of breaking Amadi, he had inadvertently cemented his brother's legacy and imposed a daunting tradition upon future rulers. As the years went by, King Amadi ruled with wisdom and justice, his reign marked by peace and prosperity. The people of Umude, despite the initial shock of his decree, grew to understand the depth of his sacrifice and the strength of his character. After the reign of Amadi, Umude Kingdom lived more than 50 years without a king. Why now do you people want to crown a king without asking questions, without knowing the mystery behind your kingdom not having a king for over 50 years? They were worried and afraid, their minds reeling from the seer's revelation. The words of their past mistakes and the consequences they faced now hung heavy in the air. Desperation etched in their faces. They turned to the seer, begging for guidance. "What must we do to remove this curse and have a king once more?" they asked, their voices trembling with hope and fear. The seer's expression grew somber as he prepared to deliver the final piece of his prophecy. "There is only one solution to free your land from the curse. A young, vibrant man must willingly take his own life at the village square. His sacrifice will be the price to break the curse. He will be buried at the village square, and his image will be molded into a statue to stand a testament to his bravery and selflessness. The first new king will come from his family, and only then shall your land be free from the curse." The villagers gasped in shock at the seer's words. This solution was more dreadful than they had imagined. They looked around, uncertain who would be brave enough to make such a sacrifice. They all left in shock and dismay. The sacrifice required to lift the curse was too great, and no one stepped forward to pay the price. Reluctantly, they continued living without a king. Their community, marked by the absence of leadership. Years passed, and the people of Umude grew accustomed to their leaderless existence. Yet, the memory of the seer's prophecy lingered, casting a shadow over the community. Among them was a young man named Chima. He was known for his strength and vibrant spirit. One day, Chima went out with his friends as usual. They gathered in a clearing outside the village, laughing and talking. However, a misunderstanding arose between Chima and one of his friends, escalating quickly into a heated argument. Harsh words were exchanged, and tensions flared. "Shut up, Chima," his friend sneered. "You have no right to talk where men are talking. Men have kings in their community. You have no king. You are not even worthy to speak among us." The words cut deep, and the others laughed, adding to Chima's humiliation. Ashamed and hurt, Chima left the gathering, his heart heavy with their mockery. As he walked alone, Chima's mind raced. The laughter of his friends echoed in his ears, and the shame of his community's curse weighed heavily on his soul. The seer's prophecy played over in his mind, and the painful truths of their situation became painfully clear. That night, Chima couldn't sleep. He thought of his ancestors, of the proud kings who had once ruled Umude with wisdom and strength. He thought of the curse that had brought his community to this state and the sacrifice that could lift it. The words of his friends, cruel as they were, had ignited a fire within him. By morning, Chima had made a decision. He gathered the elders, the villagers, and seer in the square, his heart pounding but his resolve firm. "I have made my choice," he declared. "I will pay the price to lift the curse and restore the kingship to Umude." Gasp and murmurs spread through the crowd. Chima's parents looked at him with tears in their eyes, understanding the gravity of his decision. The seer, who had long ago reviewed the prophecy, stepped forward and nodded. "Your bravery will not be forgotten, Chima. Your sacrifice will bring new life to Umude Kingdom, and your family will be honored for generations to come." Chima stood in the center, surrounded by his loved ones and villagers who had gathered to witness his final acts. With a steady hand and unwavering resolve, Chima performed the ritual, ending his life for the sake of his people. Tears flowed freely, and a profound silence enveloped the crowd as Chima's body was laid to rest in the center of the village. A statue was erected in his image, a lasting tribute to his ultimate sacrifice. The seer, witnessing the fulfillment of the prophecy, declared, "The curse is lifted. From this day forward, Umude will have a king, and the first king will come from Chima's family, honoring his sacrifice." True to the seer's words, a new king was chosen from Chima's family. The kingdom of Umude began to flourish once more, led by a line of kings who ruled with wisdom and compassion, always mindful of the great sacrifice that restored their land. Chima's statue stood in the village square, a constant reminder of the price paid for their prosperity. His story was passed down through generations, teaching the values of bravery, selflessness, and the true meaning of leadership. Under the new king's reign, the kingdom prospered, forever grateful for the young man who gave everything for the future of his people. Chima's sacrifice became a legend, a story passed down through the generations.
Subscribe for more videos.